Gaia Vince, Adventures in the Anthropocene, A Journey to the Heart of the Planet We Made. In Adventures in the Anthropocene, A Journey to the Heart of the Planet We Made, Gaia Vince explores how human activities have reshaped the world we live in, and looks for solutions to minimize our impact on the environment. The book delves into the dramatic transformations that have occurred in the atmosphere, mountains, rivers, forests, and oceans, as well as the challenges faced by traditional farming communities due to climate change. Vince discusses the threats to our natural resources, the decline of biodiversity, and the need for sustainable, innovative approaches to urbanization and energy production. In this thought-provoking journey, we discover the extent to which humanity now controls nature, and uncover the pivotal decisions we must make to protect our planet.
The unprecedented atmosphere shift. The world's atmosphere has dramatically changed due to human activities and pollution. While pollution is not new, the scale of its impact has escalated on a global scale primarily due to the increasing population and continued reliance on polluting power sources like coal. The consequences of changing atmospheric conditions take toll on both the environment and public health. While the atmosphere can recover if emissions were to cease, the challenge now is learning to live within this altered environment. Once upon a time, laying under a tree on a warm summer's day, gazing at clouds and stars, the skies above us and the air we breathed were familiar, shared experiences with our ancestors from thousands of years ago. However, it's more than evident now that something has changed in our atmosphere. Human activities have profoundly modified the atmosphere. For instance, the scale of pollution unleashed due to urbanization and industrialization is unprecedented. While our ancestors may have dealt with occasional air pollution, such as the infamous London smog, today's situation is vastly different. We're no longer just a tiny puff of smoke in the grand scheme of Earth's atmosphere. The population has exploded to over 7 billion people, and even though the dark satanic mills from the Industrial Revolution have given way to stricter pollution controls, coal power remains a pressing concern. An alarming number of people, approximately 22,000 per year, succumb to the pollution from European coal power plants alone. Developing countries like China are also pumping larger amounts of air pollution than ever before. A stark example is the fact that only 1% of China's population breathes air that meets European Union standards of clean air. Aside from industrial emissions, people themselves contribute to atmospheric pollution. In Nepal, the most significant source of pollution is the wood and dung cooking fires, which permeates the air with an acrid brown haze. This haze has wide-ranging effects, from increased temperatures and recurring droughts to failed harvests. The impact of this haze goes beyond the environment as health ramifications are alarming. For instance, in India, it's estimated that nearly 2 million people die each year from conditions related to haze exposure. This number eclipses the worldwide death toll from malaria. Despite the gloomy outlook, there is hope. The atmosphere could recover relatively quickly if emissions were halted. However, achieving that seems unrealistic in the immediate future. Consequently, the challenge for humanity lies in adapting to this new atmosphere and the altered climate it brings with it. Mountains meltdown and human survival. The awe-inspiring wonder of snow-capped mountains is unfortunately marred by litter and significant environmental changes. Our very survival depends on the mountains as they hold more than half of the world's fresh water in glaciers. However, global warming is rapidly melting these majestic ice formations, with some, like the Himalayas, losing over 2/3 of their glaciers by the century's end. Governments are combating this by building reservoirs to catch melting waters, but cost and logistics pose challenges. One alternative is recreating cooler conditions through artificial cooling techniques, such as launching mirrors into space or releasing reflective particles into the atmosphere. Yet, these solutions present the termination problem, where stopping artificial cooling abruptly could lead to a drastic temperature increase, an even more devastating outcome than the slow warming we currently experience. The Hydropower Dilemma. Rivers have been a crucial resource for humankind since our beginnings, with uses such as drinking, washing, fishing, and transport. However, their most recent role has been the generation of hydropower, an energy source created by dams and their accompanying reservoirs. Today, dams can be found along 2/3 of the world's rivers and are being planned for many more. While this clean and efficient energy source has undeniable economic and functional benefits, it also comes with significant human and environmental costs. Our challenge moving forward is to balance these benefits and costs to satisfy our energy needs without further harming our planet's resources. Hydropower is an effective and efficient energy source that works by storing water in dams' reservoirs and releasing it through turbines to generate electricity. This system acts as an 80 to 90% efficient natural battery that is not weather-dependent and can provide constant power. Furthermore, the infrastructure for building dams is relatively inexpensive, making the economic benefits substantial. Despite these advantages, dams come with notable drawbacks. The construction of reservoirs submerges fertile land and negatively impacts the fertility of the surrounding area. Dams also block sediment from flowing downstream, preventing the replenishment of eroded soil. Moreover, the accumulated water weight can trigger earthquakes, and fish populations suffer as dams obstruct their ability to reach breeding grounds. This creates a difficult dilemma. Hydropower offers invaluable energy resources for impoverished countries, bringing electricity and internet access to regions like the remote villages along the Mekong River in Laos. However, the negative consequences of dams are too grave to be ignored. Disrupted ecosystems and the loss of fertile lands compromise the livelihood of local fishermen and their communities, as they can no longer reliably live off the land. Displacement and the destruction of cultural sites, such as ancient burial grounds, further threaten the long-term survival of these communities. In conclusion, the essential challenge we face is reconciling our growing energy demands with the desire to protect our environment and prevent further damage to our already strained global resources. As we build more dams and seek to access hydropower's benefits, it is vital that we also adequately consider and address the human and environmental costs, lest we undermine our own survival in the pursuit of progress. Efficient farming for a warmer world. The era of global warming witnessed today calls for the need to make farming more efficient. This is of particular importance in Africa, where droughts and fluctuating rainfall make it increasingly difficult for the local population to survive. Farmers like Winifred from Uganda, who manage to thrive despite unfavorable circumstances, can serve as an example for others. By providing farmers with proper training, access to higher quality seeds and better land preparation techniques, we not only help them adapt to the changing climate but also tackle the ongoing issue of food scarcity. In the age of global warming, where water scarcity becomes more and more common, making land less suitable for farming, it's essential for humans to enhance the efficiency of agriculture. Africa serves as a perfect example. With scarce irrigation and irregular rainfall, survival has become a daunting challenge. Imagine a country like Uganda, where once predictable rainy seasons now seem haphazard and farmers can no longer rely on the same consistent planting and harvesting schedules. Rainfall patterns have become unpredictable. As a result, harvests suffer, leading to food shortages. These shortages are further aggravated by increasing prices driven by international corporations' speculation, making it even harder for people to access food. But there's an alternative to relying on foreign corporations: enhancing the productivity of small farmers. A case in point is Winifred, an East Ugandan farmer who supports her family and even turns a profit from her own crops, despite living in a region where the majority depend on food aid. The National Semi-Arid Resources Research Institute offered her valuable guidance on the most suitable crops, land preparation techniques, and access to superior quality seeds through a loan. This investment paid off, with Winifred generating surplus crops the following season, enabling her to send her children to better schools. Her story demonstrates how more can be extracted from our farmland through targeted support and improved agricultural practices. Population growth is pushing food demand to possibly exceed supply, leading to malnutrition in thousands of children. It's crucial to find solutions like increasing crop nutrition and developing strains that withstand heat and drought. This would enable farmers to adapt to new climate patterns without depending on harmful industrial agriculture practices. By tailoring farming to suit each location's climate and assisting farmers in boosting their productivity, we can work towards achieving a world where no one goes hungry, even with the looming threat of global warming. Melting oceans' drastic impact. The Earth's vast oceans have been drastically transformed through human activities, with the most pressing issue being the melting ice driven by climate change. As melting ice affects the entire planet, nations and communities must adapt to the rising sea levels through measures such as artificial land masses and designer islands, while simultaneously striving to engineer new solutions to mitigate the damage we've caused. Our oceans make up an immense part of our planet, yet despite having only explored around 3% of their depths, we have managed to bring about significant changes to them through our activities. These transformations range from constructing bridges, tunnels, and canals to exploiting resources such as food, oil, and gas. However, the most alarming transformation is the melting of frozen Arctic waters driven by global temperature increases. Consequently, the Arctic region is warming at twice the global rate, causing its ice to disappear at a distressing pace. By 2030, the Arctic could be entirely free of ice, impacting not only the North Pole but also countries thousands of kilometers away, causing extreme climate conditions, flooding, and droughts. One such region affected is the Maldives, the lowest country in the world, which faces the real risk of submersion and uninhabitability. To adapt, some solutions involve creating artificial land masses and designer islands to relocate displaced populations, with storm-safe islands like Duvafaru being built from scratch on previously uninhabited land to resist tsunamis, and even fully artificial islands like Thilafushi being constructed of garbage. However, these localized measures will not be enough to save our planet in the long run. The dire situation calls for innovative engineering and global strategies aimed at reversing the damage we have imposed on our oceans, mitigating the consequences of rising temperatures and melting ice. These methods should not only focus on adaptation but also support the push towards a better and more sustainable world for all inhabitants, both humans and the ecosystem at large, which relies on the health of our oceans. Deserts, destruction and power. Climate change wreaks havoc on traditional desert dwellers like Kenya's Turkana tribe, with increasingly severe and frequent droughts decimating their way of life. Despite posing significant challenges, these expanded arid landscapes fuel adaptable power sources. Massive wind farms, like the one planned in Kenya, capitalize on consistent desert winds, generating the potential to power up to 20% of the country's energy needs. Furthermore, solar power advancements, including pay-as-you-go solar-powered phones, provide impoverished communities with renewable energy, eliminating the need for kerosene or diesel. As the world seeks to harness clean energy, deserts may hold a significant key for our future power production. Once upon a time, nomadic tribes like Kenya's Turkana wandered unrestricted through the arid landscapes of northern Kenya, thriving off livestock, such as cattle, goats, and camels. Tragically, those days are slipping away, as climate change ravages traditional ways of living in the desert. The culprit is drought. Drastic changes in weather patterns have led to longer dry spells coupled with insufficient rainfall. The vegetation that once thrived can no longer recover in time, dooming livestock populations to malnourishment and starvation. Consequently, Turkana and other nomadic tribes can no longer sustain their way of life. Since 2006, the number of these displaced people has doubled. Ironically, these same destructive droughts pave the way for new energy opportunities. The expansion of arid landscapes enables the development of renewable power sources. For instance, Africa's largest wind farm is planned for the very region the Turkana tribe once called home. In these deserts, wind turbines harness the constant strong winds and generate twice the power of their European counterparts. This new farm alone could meet 20% of Kenya's growing energy demands. In water-starved regions, wind energy can even supplement or replace increasingly unreliable hydropower. But wind isn't the only energy source deserts provide. The sun's rays, abundant and inextinguishable, can be harnessed for solar energy. Revolutionary pay-as-you-go solar-powered phones are transforming lives in remote African communities, granting connectivity to those who'd never had access to electricity. Users skip the costly kerosene or diesel, paying a small fee to recharge their devices at community solar-powered stations. As deserts increase in size, stretched barren due to climate change, they emerge as a crucial component of future sustainable energy production. Adaptability is key in harnessing these deserts' potential to secure a cleaner and more resilient power supply for generations to come. Controlling nature's future. Humanity's journey from being a part of nature to dominating it has left permanent imprints on the environment, even initiating a possible sixth mass extinction. As the custodians of nature, we must now decide which aspects of wildlife we want to preserve and how to accomplish it. Skillfully managing the power to transform nature has the potential to restore balance within ecosystems through unconventional methods, such as introducing non-native species to counter environmental challenges. The day we took our first steps on the savanna, our presence began gradually altering the environment around us. From cutting down trees to domesticating plants and animals, we have left our mark on every corner of the earth. Influencing ecosystems is a considerable feat, however. What we've achieved now exceeds influence. We have fundamentally reshaped nature. No longer a mere cog in its mechanism, we've assumed control of nature and its future rests in our hands. Our manipulations have consequences, and one of the most pressing is fast-tracking a new wave of extinction. Planet Earth has already witnessed 5 mass extinctions brought about by cataclysmic events. In fact, the most recent one occurred 65 million years ago due to a meteorite collision. Today, human activity alone is propelling us towards the 6th mass extinction. Anthony Barnosky, a biologist at the University of California, Berkeley, estimates that the current rate of extinction is astoundingly between 1 and 10,000 times higher than if we had simply let nature be. The power to shape our environment in such unprecedented ways comes with the responsibility to manage its future. It's time to think collectively about the segments of wildlife we want to save and devise strategies for preservation. One of the most significant consequences of our impact on nature is the loss of its self-sustaining equilibrium. As we threaten species, like jaguars, with extinction due to our unyielding demand for resources, we simultaneously lose the benefits these creatures provide by keeping other creatures, like rodents and their disease-spreading ticks, in check. To remedy such situations, we can explore unconventional solutions, such as introducing non-native species like elephants and rhinos to Australia to keep grasslands in check and mitigate the risk of wildfires. The power to change nature is undeniably at our disposal. It's now a matter of wielding it wisely. Deforestation and road-building dilemma. Today, forests face their greatest threat ever due to the relentless expansion of human activities. Around the world, deforestation primarily occurs in close proximity to road building, accounting for about 95% of total forest loss. Constructing roads enables access to remote areas for activities such as agriculture, mining, and dam construction, effectively promoting economic development in connection to the broader world. However, improved infrastructure also aids animal poachers and illegal drug traffickers. In the Amazon alone, roads lead to extensive deforestation, and any opposition is met with violence. To address this issue, alternative methods to minimize damage could be explored, such as the utilization of railways or existing river networks, as demonstrated by the Camisea gas project in Peru. As global warming accelerates, every effort to preserve forests is critical. Rethinking Earth's mineral resources. The world today moves more sediment and rock materials than any natural force, driven mainly by our insatiable hunger for resources. Earth's supplies, however, are finite, and the consequences of over-extraction are evident in dwindling resources like silver and the increasing environmental and human toll connected to mining. As our consumption of fossil fuels, ores, minerals, and biomass continues to soar, we must consider alternative energy sources such as lithium, a critical element in batteries, and focus on building a sustainable infrastructure for our future. Our modern society mines an extraordinary amount of resources, including approximately 8 billion metric tons of coal annually, equivalent to constructing 16 Great Walls of China. This extraction rate is unsustainable, and we must urgently reconsider our usage of the Earth's mineral resources. Although some resources like coal seem abundant, others, like silver, face depletion. Silver's numerous applications, from electronics to medical devices, make it increasingly valuable. As it grows scarce, we dedicate more land, energy, and water to mining efforts, often resulting in ecological damage, such as rainforest destruction, and increased instances of human rights violations. For instance, Potosí, a city in Bolivia, sits high in the mountains and was once prosperous due to its silver mine. However, as silver supplies diminished, the city faced decline, and the human cost of mining skyrocketed. Workers often die within 10 years of entering the mine at a tragically young age. The escalating issue stems from human demand for nearly everything. By 2050, our usage of fossil fuels, ores, minerals, and biomass is expected to reach a staggering 140 billion metric tons annually. Fossil fuels like coal are significant pollution contributors. Coal power stations built in the early 21st century will emit more carbon dioxide in the next 25 years than the emissions since the Industrial Revolution. Nevertheless, reducing consumption is challenging as 86% of the world's energy originates from fossil fuels, and energy demand increases. The solution lies in electrification. By relying on batteries instead of fuel tanks, we can power heating, lighting, and transportation sustainably. Lithium, an element found close to Earth's core, is the light, efficient component at the heart of batteries. It already powers the smartphones we use daily and holds great potential for broader uses. To harness lithium's potential effectively, we must prioritize creating a sustainable infrastructure and adapt our consumption habits to preserve our finite resources. The Urban Age Dilemma. Today, more than half of the world's population resides in cities, making our era the age of urbanization. While cities offer numerous benefits like cultural enrichment, increased productivity, and resource efficiency, they also present significant challenges. As urbanization spreads throughout the globe, it becomes crucial to address issues such as unsustainable practices in developing countries, unplanned migration, and the consequences of rapid expansion. Only by working together on innovative solutions can we ensure that cities become sustainable environments for humans to thrive in a rapidly changing world. The urban age has swept across the globe, with over half of the world's population now dwelling in cities. Cities are known to be hubs of culture, boasting vibrant nightlife and a variety of opportunities. Their dense populations significantly increase productivity, with a doubled city population often leading to a 15% rise in average wages as well as reduced carbon emissions and resource usage. Despite these benefits, making cities a solution to humanity's environmental and social problems is far from simple. Urbanization introduces new challenges, which if left unaddressed, could lead to disastrous consequences. The sustainability of developing countries' cities can be negatively impacted, as wealthier urban populations' resource consumption and waste output exceed that of poorer rural residents. In contrast, wealthier inhabitants of developed countries tend to reside in rural areas. Moreover, rapid and unplanned migration from rural to urban areas contributes to the expansion of informal settlements like slums. These areas often lack basic infrastructure and services, leading to issues such as waste accumulation, water pollution, and land contamination. Addressing the challenges of urbanization is a crucial task, as the fate of numerous cities hangs in the balance. Ultimately, it is up to humanity to decide whether we overcome the obstacles presented by urbanization, or let them become insurmountable hurdles. By collectively working on inventive solutions and strategies, we can potentially transform cities into sustainable havens that allow us to thrive on a continually evolving planet.
As Adventures in the Anthropocene demonstrates, humanity's journey has taken us to a point where we no longer simply participate in nature, but actively control its fate. This crucial juncture presents challenges and opportunities, as we grapple with the consequences of our actions on the environment and search for sustainable solutions. Vince highlights the need for efficient, innovative approaches to farming, energy production, and urbanization, while warning against the decline of traditional ways of life and the loss of natural resources. As our population grows and our planet changes, we must reflect on our collective responsibility to preserve the Earth and protect its unique ecosystems. Adventures in the Anthropocene ultimately leaves us with a choice. Can we wield our power over nature responsibly to build a brighter, more sustainable future?